Thank you, Yvette. My name is Dr. Robert Clark, and I am an ACE faculty liaison for the social sciences here at Pennsylvania Highlands Community College. I'm also an assistant professor of criminal justice and social sciences here for the college. I'm going to talk about APA formatting, citations, and plagiarism. Some of the APA citation basics that we recommend come from the website owl.english.purdue.edu. You can find this by Googling it or through our online library services here through Pennsylvania Highlands. Okay. When using APA format, follow the author date method of in-text citation. This means that the author's last name and the year of publication for the source should appear in the text. For example, Clark, 1999. And a complete reference should appear in the reference list at the end of the paper. If you're referring to an idea from another work, but not directly quoting the material or making reference to an entire book, article, or other work, you only have to make reference to the author and the year of publication and not the page number in your in-text reference. All sources that are cited in the text must appear in the reference list at the end of the paper. In-text citation capitalization, quotes, and italics underlining. For this, always capitalize proper nouns, including author names and initials. If you refer to the title of a source within the paper, capitalize all words that are 4 letters long or greater within the title of a source. Exceptions apply to short words that are verbs, nouns, pronouns, adjectives, and adverbs. When capitalizing titles, capitalize both words in an hyphenated compound word like natural born. Capitalize the first word after a dash or colon, and italicize or underline the titles of longer works such as books, edited collections, movies, television series, documentaries, or albums. Put quotation marks around titles of shorter works such as journal articles, articles from edited editions and collections, television series episodes, and song titles. For short quotations, if you are directly quoting from a work, you will need to include the author, year of publication, and the page number for the reference, preceded by the letter P. Introduce the quotation with a signal phrase that includes the author's last name, followed by the date of publication in parentheses. For longer quotations, place direct quotations that are 40 words or longer in a freestanding block of typewritten lines and omit the quotation marks. Start the quotation on a new line, indent it a ½ inch from the left margin. In other words, in the same place you would begin a new paragraph. Type the entire quotation on the new margin and indent the first line of any subsequent paragraph within the quotation a ½ inch from the new margin. Maintain double spacing throughout. And the parenthetical citation should come after the closing punctuation mark. Summary or paraphrasing. If you're paraphrasing an idea from another work, you only have to make reference to the author and the year of publication in your in-text reference. But APA guidelines encourage you to also provide the page number, although it is not required. When we're looking at a work by 2 authors, name both authors in the signal phrase or in the parentheses each time you cite the work. Use the word "and" between the author's names within the text, and use the ampersand in the parentheses. If you have a work that has 3 to 5 authors, list all the authors in the signal phrase in the parentheses the first time you cite the source. Use the word "and" between the author's names within the text, and use the ampersand in the parentheses. If you have 6 or more authors, use the first author's name followed by "et al." in the signal phrase or in parentheses. If you have an unknown author, cite the source by its title in the signal phrase or use the first word or 2 in the parentheses. Titles of books and reports are italicized or underlined. Titles of articles, chapters, and web pages are in quotation marks. In the rare case the anonymous is used for the author, treat it as the author's name. In other words, put in parentheses anonymous, comma, and then the year. Organization as an author. If the author is an organization or a government agency, mention the organization in the signal phrase or in the parenthetical citation the first time you cite the source. If you have 2 or more works in the same parentheses, use your parenthetical citation, including 2 or more works, order them the same way that they appear in the reference list. separated by a semicolon. Authors with the same last name, to prevent confusion, use their first initials with the last name. If you have 2 or more works by the same author in the same year, what you do now is use the lowercase letters A, B, or C with the year to order the entries in the reference list. Use the lowercase letters with the year in the in-text citation. Introductions, prefaces, forwards, and afterwards. When citing an introduction, preface, forward, or afterwards in text, cite the appropriate author and year as usual. For interviews, letters, emails, and other person-to-person communication, cite the communicator's name, the fact that it was personal communication, and the date of the communication. Do not include personal communication in the reference list. Citing indirect sources. If you choose a source that is cited in another source, name the original source in the signal phrase. List a secondary source in your reference list and include a secondary source in the parentheses. When citing material in parentheses, set off the citation with a comma as above, but also try to locate the original material and cite the original source. If possible, regarding electronic sources, cite it the same as any other document by using the author followed by the date style. If no author or date is given, use the title in your signal phrase or the first word or two of the title in the parentheses and use the abbreviation N.D. For no date. When an electronic source lacks page numbers, you should try to include information that will help readers find the passage being cited. When an electronic document has numbered paragraphs, use the abbreviation para, P-A-R-A, followed by the paragraph number. If the paragraphs are not numbered and the document includes headings, provide the appropriate heading and specify the paragraph under the heading. Note that in some electronic sources like web pages, people can use the find function in their browser to locate any passage you cite. Never use the page numbers of web pages you print out. Different computers print web pages with different pagination. APA style dictates that authors are named last name followed by initials. Publication year goes between the parentheses followed by a period. The title of the article is in sentence case, meaning only the first word and proper nouns in the title are capitalized. The periodical title is run in title case and is followed by the volume number, which, with the title, is also italicized. If a DOI has been assigned to the article that you are using, you should include this after the page numbers for the article. If no DOI has been assigned and you are accessing the periodical online, use the URL of the website from which you are retrieving the periodical. Regarding articles in journal paginated by volume, journals that are paginated by volume begin the page 1 in issue 1 and continue numbering issue 2 where issue 1 ended. Journals paginated by issue begin with page 1 every issue, therefore the issue number gets indicated in parentheses after the volume. The parentheses and issue number are not italicized or underlined. Article in a magazine. When referencing an article in a magazine, make sure that you italicize the title of the journal or the magazine, followed by the volume and the page numbers. If you're referring to an article in a newspaper, unlike other periodicals, using P for page or more than one page precedes page numbers for a newspaper reference in APA style. For example, you would put the name of the periodical followed by the page or page numbers. Because of issues with HTML coding, listings below using brackets contain spaces that are not to be used with your listings. So use a space as normal before the brackets, but do not include a space following the bracket. If you're using a letter to the editor, make sure that you put in brackets the words letter to the editor. Basic formatting for books. Again, you're going to use author's last name followed by their first name, year of publication, and then in italics, you're going to put the title of the work as well as the location and the publisher. Always use city and state when you're using location, and make sure for the state you use the 2-letter abbreviations. If you have an edited book with no author, once again, you want to follow the format of using the first word of the particular article. If you have more than one author, again, you want to list them, potentially followed by et al. With all that information that I just provided for you, again, it's all available on the Purdue OWL website, as well as other sources, exercises for you and your students, as well as video references that will also help you to help your students develop proper APA-style formatting for their papers. Finally, I want to talk to you a little bit about plagiarism. Again, also this information can be found on the Purdue OWL website. There are few intellectual offenses more serious than plagiarism in academic and professional context. The resource from Purdue OWL offers advice on how to avoid plagiarism in your students' work. There are some actions that can almost unquestionably be labeled plagiarism. Some of these include buying, stealing, or borrowing a paper, including, of course, copying an entire paper article from the web, hiring someone to write your paper for you, and copying large sections of text from a source without quotation marks or proper citation. But then there are actions that are usually in more of a gray area. Some of these include using the words of a source too closely when paraphrasing, where quotation marks should have been used, or building on someone's ideas without citing their spoken or written work. Sometimes teachers suspecting students of plagiarism will consider the student's intent and whether it appeared the student was deliberately trying to make his ideas of others appear to be his or her own. However, other teachers and administrators may not distinguish between deliberate and accidental plagiarism. So let's look at some strategies for avoiding even suspicion of plagiarism in the first place. The first question we bring up is, when do we give credit? The key to avoiding plagiarism is to make sure you give credit where it is due. This may be credit for something somebody said, wrote, emailed, drew, or implied. Many professional organizations, including the Modern Language Association, MLA, and the American Psychological Association, the APA, have lengthy guidelines for citing sources. However, students are often so busy trying to learn the rules of MLA, or in this context and presentation, the style of APA, they sometimes forget exactly what needs to be credited. Here then is a brief list of what needs to be credited or documented. First, words or ideas presented in a magazine, book, newspaper, song, TV program, movie, web page, computer program, letter, advertisement, or any other medium. Information you gain through interviewing or conversing with another person, face-to-face, or over the phone or in writing. When you copy the exact words or a unique phrase. When you reprint any diagrams, illustrations, charts, pictures, or other visual materials. When you reuse or repost any electronically available media, including images, audio, video, or other media. Bottom line, document any words, ideas, or other productions that originate somewhere outside of you. There are, of course, certain things that do not need documentation or credit, including writing your own lived experiences, your own observations and insights, your own thoughts, and your own conclusions about a subject. When you are writing up your own results obtained through lab or field experiments, when you use your own artwork, digital photography, video, audio, etc. When you're using common knowledge, things like folklore, common sense observations, myths, urban legends, and historical events, but not historical documents. When you're using generally accepted facts, like, for example, pollution is bad for the environment, and including facts that are accepted with particular discourse. For example, in the field of composition studies, writing is a process is a generally accepted fact. So how do we decide if something is common knowledge? Generally speaking, you can regard something as common knowledge if you find the same information undocumented in at least 5 credible sources. Additionally, it might be common knowledge if you think the information you're presenting is something your readers will already know, or something that a person could easily find in general references sources. But when in doubt, always cite. If the citation turns out to be unnecessary, your teacher or editor will tell you. As a prime example, the information I provided for you comes again straight from the Purdue OWL website and is available for the general audience of information for educators as well as students, so that they can also read and comprehend the same material that I've presented for you today. Good luck in your papers, and please, please always cite. Thank you.